And we are live. So, welcome to episode 192 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. Um, American Werewolf is always going to be covering horror, sci-fi, and action thrillers. This week coming up, we have Ahsoka and the first two episodes of that as it drops, and we've been covering Star Wars for a long time. The original trilogy. We've done the prequels, which I did for something shitty. I'm actually thinking about having a redo of that within the context of now having seen, things like Filoni's The Clone Wars, so on and so forth. Always doing action thrillers. But I'm expanding. I'm expanding into other interests that are actually in the description for the YouTube channel. And some of those things include professional wrestling, which has always been a lifelong love of mine, going back to the days of Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Putski, Chief Jay Strongbow, through the Hogan eras, the 90s. We just did an episode, Eric and I, from Hey Internet, Eric here, about Chris Jericho. If Chris Jericho at 52 should retire, arriving at the conclusion. Check out the video and it's there so you can see it. But one of the other things that the channel is going to expand into also is MMA, mixed martial arts. And if you want to understand my bona fides when it comes to mixed martial arts, I go back to the VHS era. I go back to the Blockbuster days where you could rent these crazy videos, watching these guys just fight without weight classes. 200-pound guys against 400, 500-pound guys, the days of Hoist Gracie and Chemo and the Shamrocks, Big Daddy Goodrich, all these sorts of things. So that goes all the way up until today, which we just had this past week, UFC 292, where we saw the Sugar Show and O'Malley, TKO, Aljamain Sterling. But that's not the purpose of this video today. I'm posing a more general question, which is that should leg kicks be banned in MMA? I saw something today or over the weekend during the pay-per-view with Ian Gary versus Neil Magny. And I'm going to bring it up for you because my opinion is that leg kicks are kind of the new fence holds. So I'm going to bring this up off of a Twitter page and hopefully not get clipped for it with a copyright, but here we go. And this is Neil Magny versus Ian Gary. So he's kicking him.
And he started to clinch me. That was one alongside Phil Rowe tonight.
20 seconds later, 30 seconds later, a minute later.
He's doing this so well because he doesn't have no toes doing.
So you see he's just kicking the guy's leg out from under him. Eventually, it causes so much damage that the opponent can't stand. You see he's already hopping. I don't know why Magny isn't checking these.
Distance, watching closely. Feints and nuances to the striking.
We were going into it's a 3-round fight, 3 5-minute rounds.
Magny goes down.
Eventually, his leg falls out from under him.
In full survival mode.
Yeah, for this date, but gotta give Neil Magny.
Again.
Barry welcomes Magny back to his feet. 35 leg kicks. And now he goes high. Oh, Magny covers up.
And there you go. Now, my response to that basically is, and I'll see if I get hit with a copyright claim. I hope I don't. What the fuck is that? And I know, MMA fans are going to say, well, he's shutting down the opponent. He's taken away his ability to fight. And, he's kicking his leg out. And, you see the way he's crumbling and all that high testosterone, 20-somethings are going to be like, he's destroying his leg and, he's mangling this and mangling that. To that, I would basically, and there was another fight also before I start to go too far that happened, and it was Brad Tavares and Chris Weidman. And Chris Weidman had just come back from a devastating leg break that took about 2 years off of his career. I had a leg break like that probably back around 2006. So I know that, it's definitely something that leaves an impact on you. He comes back, and it's another fight just like that. Fighting this guy, Brad Tavares. Nothing against Brad Tavares, but what he basically did was just leg kick him the entire time. My argument about that is, one, it's fucking boring. If you're going to fight someone, I mean, I get it. A leg kick might come in handy, every now and again. But would you make an entire fight about leg kicks? Just the entire strategy, the entire time are these leg kicks, tap, tap, tap. And it's a lot more than that. I mean, anybody who's ever been leg kicked will tell you. But it makes for a terrible strategy. I think it's kind of a pussy's way out. I mean, it's kind of I don't like it at all. And granted, you could just as easily kick someone in the head and say, well, that's devastating. But this is something that's, I'm seeing it more and more and more and more. And I remember first seeing it back in the old VHS days when I saw, Paul Varlins fight this guy. Oh God, what was his name? And the guy just leg kicked him. And that was before there were rounds with time limits. It just kind of went until the fight ended. And after about 6 or 7 minutes, this guy's leg just deadened out from under him, and then he fell on him and won the fight that way. It was a big surprise. Who was it? Mauricio Hua, if I remember, the king of the streets. He fought this Brazilian guy who just kept kicking him in the fucking leg. Like I said, if you occasionally kick someone in the leg and use that as a strategy, you're hitting, doing other things, that's one thing. If your strategy for the entirety of the fight is, especially, we're not back in the days of Hua versus Varlins, which there was almost a 2-to-1 weight discrepancy, and size differential. So, you have to use something like that. Here you have two fighters that are in the same weight class, and just your entire strategy is just to keep kicking him in the leg. I think that makes for a really boring fight. There are lots of people who are going to say, well, it's a Muay Thai kind of strategy, the leg kick and so on and so forth. Sure, it's a strategy. If it's your only strategy, these fight organizations really need to take a look at it. When I saw the Weidman Tavares fight, he just came back off the injury, getting back to that real quick. And what ended up happening? Now he's got a torn ACL or MCL, one of the CL. So he's right back. And first fight back in 2 years. He's probably going to be gone for another year now. Whether, Weidman should have come back at all is a completely different topic. But I believe that these leg kicks have sort of come to dominate the strategy of a lot of different fighters. And I just, I don't find it to be a convincing kind of strategy where that's all you do. You just kick and kick the leg, kick the leg, kick the leg, kick the leg. It's like, I really think that some of these federations really need to take a look at this. Again, if you remember a few years ago, we used to have a lot of fighters that were holding against the fence, and that would just be the strategy for the entire time. Khabib was kind of like that. Although, he's one of the great submission specialists, certainly one of the greatest, best ever do it. But he was a against the fence kind of guy, although, he was so elevated in his ability that, you kind of didn't notice. But that was another thing. When Makhachev came along, again, up against the fence, right up against the fence. And I guess you could argue that's their style. But what I've noticed of late, and I'm glad because of it, is that holding against the fence and not doing any damage is not being rewarded by the judges. And so we saw a fight recently, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I'm going to have to start writing these things down now that I'm making content for the channel, where that didn't happen. And I'm like, hey, shouldn't have held him against the fence. This person got robbed. I'm like, no, holding against the fence and doing nothing is not a strategy for success. if the judges are recognizing that, then the judges are waking up, at least in that respect. Lord knows the judges make, bad calls almost every weekend. But I think in enough time, these leg kicks really need to be looked at. And we should stop this. Or I don't know if you could, because I don't see of a way that you can limit, like, when you're in the middle of a fight, you can limit the number of, leg kicks that you could have. So it would have to be an all or nothing kind of scenario. And I'm saying nothing, kicks above the knee. Kicks above the knee. Kicks above the knee, I can see. But this calf kicking kind of thing, as the sole means of winning the fight, I don't like it. I know that there are a lot of other people I see on social media that agree with me, just as there are probably an equal number of people that disagree. But I think this is moving forward going to be looked at more closely by these organizations. And I think that they should. I think the conclusion I'm having now, having talked this out in the middle of the stream, is that eliminate the calf kicks at the knee or below. Leg kicks, on the quad or the hamstring or one thing, but these calf kicks, they really need to fucking stop. They diminish the quality of the fight, and I'm done with them. All right, so that's my video. Let me know what you think. Like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Horror, sci-fi, action thrillers, pro wrestling, MMA, comic book movies, leaning towards the Snyderverse, those types of serious movies, although, I have a shit ton of them behind me from, all different types of companies. All right, that's the video. Thank you very much, and we'll see you. I'll be back on Wednesday with Ahsoka. I'll be back on Thursday. The summer of sci-fi fantasy is coming to a close. We're going to be looking at Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. So tons of fun stuff on this channel. Check it out, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, have a good one, everybody. And just remember, don't be an asshole.